Right, so we've heard big things are in the works for the M3 iPad Pro with a new design, OLED M3, but now we hear we could see MagSafe, and I know that might be giving you a bit of deja vu because we also heard about that coming to the M2 iPad Pro, and so let's delve into this. So yes, we are getting MagSafe according to MacRumors, who was informed by a random source that apparently is familiar with companies that manufacture magnets for Apple products. And that's all they tell us. Now, if you're wondering which version of MagSafe this could be based on what Gurman's told us in the past, it could be the iPhone version. Last year, he was claiming the M2 iPad Pro was going to get a glass back for wireless charging, and so maybe that's now in the works for the M3 model, considering we've heard so much about a redesign in the works for the iPad. But guys, I'm not too excited about this. I mean, a glass back instantly makes the iPad Pro way more fragile, and it's not like the current design is sturdy, is it? It already bends pretty easily, so adding a glass back to this seems like a bad idea, but then again, you could argue Apple's gonna benefit from this because more repairs equals more cash, but I don't see Timothy being that evil, guys. And so ultimately, I'm against this, and I don't see this happening. And by the way, would like to remind you guys, like this video and subscribe for more content like this, it would be appreciated. Don't get me wrong, I could see the benefits, especially for those who use a dock with their iPads. Keeping it charged wirelessly at all times is pretty nice, but it's not necessarily something everyone needs. At the end of the day, we know how slow and how much heat MagSafe produces, and so I'd much rather have the Mac version of MagSafe on the iPad instead. For one, this would be very easy to implement since it's literally just a new port on the side of the iPad, but also it would allow for faster speeds and frees up the USB-C ports to connect to peripherals, since remember, Apple's trying to push the narrative that the iPad is a real computer, so of course, if you can charge and connect peripherals at the same time, that would be pretty neat. Also, MagSafe on the Mac is hella cool, because if you trip on the wire, your MacBook isn't sent flying across the room, it's safely on the desk and only the wire comes detached. So yes, totally would love to see this on the iPad. Also, as a side note, it is pretty confusing, both MagSafe on the iPhone and MagSafe on the Mac have the same name, yet are widely different. It does make leaks like this harder to decipher because MacRumors doesn't even know which exact version they're using, and so we're left to guess. Anyways, enough of the MagSafe talk, let's talk about the other changes with this iPad Pro refresh. The main change I'm sure many are looking forward to is OLED. We've had this on the iPhone for years. It gives you vibrant colors, inky blacks, so this will make a big difference when watching content on the iPads. We also are getting a new design, though no one's really specified what exactly is changing. All we've heard about are thinner bezels, but is that it? Does that even count as a redesign? Because the chassis is not going to be changing much because it needs to retain the flat sides for pencil support and also for compatibility with older Magic keyboards. I doubt they can change the camera module much, so this redesign is literally shrinking the bezels and calling it a day. You could argue that's a reason we could see a glass back, because not only would it give MagSafe to the iPads, but of course it would help visually differentiate this iPad from the last 5 generations of iPad Pro, but still, I'm really hoping there's no glass back. We do not need that. Give us the Mac version of MagSafe instead. But let's now move on to accessories, because Gurman in his new report once again mentions these should be refreshed with the new models, so let's talk about the changes. Beginning with the new Magic Keyboard, this apparently is going to make the iPad look even more like a laptop compared to the current version, so they're basically turning this into a mini MacBook. The area around the keyboard is now going to be made out of aluminium for a sturdier build. There's also going to be a larger trackpad, but interestingly, the exterior shell is going to retain the silicone material we have today, as well as the single USB-C ports. Now, my thoughts on these changes are pretty mixed, not gonna lie, because it doesn't seem like Apple's addressing our actual issues with the current keyboards. They're just giving us random features no one really asked for. For example, the biggest issues for me are number 1, there's no function row, number 2, the silicone material sucks for long-term durability, and number 3, more USB-C ports would be very nice. But instead of fixing that, they're giving us super shiny aluminium on the inner part of the keyboards. Who actually asked for that? I honestly don't get how Apple consistently does the opposite of what we want with the iPads, Really, the only thing I'm looking forward to is the larger trackpads, but apart from that, this seems pretty mid. And the bad news continues because apparently with Apple adding aluminium on the inside for no reason, there could also be a price increase. And now I'm sorry, but there's no way Apple's getting away with this. It's already outrageous they sell these keyboards for $300 and $350 respectively for each size. And so even upping the price by $50 would be mental, especially if the rumors about the OLED iPads themselves getting more expensive turns out to be right. And Gurman actually in this new report does hint at that, saying that these iPads are gonna be pricier, but he doesn't specify how much more expensive they're gonna get. Anyways, Mark Gurman also says a 3rd generation pencil's in the works, and we haven't heard much about this apart from new magnetic tips, but to be fair, there's very little they could do with the pencil because the current version is still the go-to stylus for the iPads and works brilliantly for the most part. And whilst there have been patents suggesting a color picker feature where there's a tiny camera on the pencil that allows you to scan colors around your environment for your drawings, that doesn't seem feasible, let's be honest. But hey, I would love for Apple to surprise us with something actually innovative. Now, Gurman says that Apple's going big with this iPad Pro refresh in a bid to increase sales, after multiple quarters of declining revenue for the category, but I have my doubts about that. Don't get me wrong, the OLED display is going to look gorgeous, the thinner bezels are going to look great, M3 is going to be very powerful, and MagSafe might be nice, but I don't think that's enough to justify buying this, especially when there's going to be a price increase. At the end of the day, you can't really fault the hardware of the M2 iPad Pros. The mini LED panel is still fantastic, but it's the software that needs a major overhaul, and if this launches in March, like the rumors are pointing towards, it's going to get the same iPadOS 17 out of the box, and as it stands right now, the software just does not take advantage of the amazing hardware the iPad has. What do I mean by this? Well, to be frank, I just want to be able to boot macOS on this. At the end of the day, whilst iPadOS is perfect for tablet things like content consumption, reading books, checking on social media, etc., it does kind of suck for productivity use. There are great apps on the iPad for creative workflows, but weird limitations with iPadOS stops me from using this as a laptop replacement, and I've really given up on that dream altogether. But if Apple wanted to fix things, just giving us macOS here would be awesome. Take multitasking for example, Stage Manager feels so much more inferior to use compared to multitasking on macOS. I feel like this perfectly illustrates my issue with the iPad because, yes, you can technically open multiple windows at once and switch between them on the iPads, but it feels a lot clunkier and slower than macOS, and paying extra for OLED's not gonna fix these issues. Of course, I'm aware that Apple wants to keep the iPad and Mac separate, and so the chances of the iPad getting macOS are basically nil at this point, but at the very least we should see more macOS-like features on the iPads. Because of the software limitations, I could never justify spending upwards of $1,000 on a new iPad. I'm sure many of you guys also agree with me, and my stance won't change even if we get a fancy OLED display. At the end of the day, you're not going to see a massive difference between this and an older iPad in terms of regular usage. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.